Hello again, this is Alan Rowland from Jasper, Alabama, Walker County, and the reason I'm saying that, there's a reason behind this, there's a purpose behind it. I want to tell you in the next 15 minutes, if I can get this video in within 15 minutes, of one of the most important days in the history of Jasper. I say again, it's Walker County, it's Jasper, Alabama. We had on that day, which was the 17th of September in 1940, 40,000 people gathered in the downtown area of Jasper. Now, the reason for this, it was a funeral. It was a funeral for the Speaker of the House of Representatives. It's the United States Congress in Washington, D.C., not Montgomery, Alabama, but the Speaker of the House of Representatives, William Brockman Bankhead, had passed away 2 days earlier on the 15th. And his funeral was to take place at the Methodist Church. So let me go to some of my visuals here. And again, this is a funeral for William B. Bankhead. He was born in Lamar County on 12th of April 1874, passed away in Washington, D.C. from heart-related problems. He had had 5 heart attacks. He may have even had a ruptured artery. We're not really sure about that, but he passed away on the 15th of September. His wife was Adelaide Eugenia Bankhead, and his daughter, which most of you are probably familiar with, is Tallulah Bankhead. If you're from Jasper, you certainly know that. There's a brewery downtown Jasper that is named Tallulah's, which is named for her. Here's a popular book in the area. You may have seen this at the Bankhead house. In fact, it's autographed, not to me, but it's a photograph of an autograph right there. It is titled A Memory. All right. Now, the individual that we're talking about here, the Speaker of the House, William Brockman Bankhead. There are a number of photographs available for him. I took this photograph from the First Methodist Church up in their archives room. Now, on this occasion, the President of the United States, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, visited this church, and he visited for the funeral of the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Here's a photograph of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, cigarette in his hand right there. He loved to smoke cigarettes, also liked his gin, but that doesn't have anything to do with his presentation here. And, of course, he was president for 12 years, elected 4 terms of office, longer than any other president that has ever served as President of the United States. Here is another photograph, or painting here, of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. There. And anyway, and arrived in Jasper for that funeral. Okay, now, as I said earlier, this is one of the remarkable days in the history of Jasper. We had 8 cabinet members, if you can imagine that, over 90 senators and congressmen and 1 Supreme Court justice actually came through and to Jasper. They arrived at Jasper by train. Now, actually for FDR, for Franklin Delano Roosevelt, it had actually been through Jasper on an earlier occasion, but he only passed through Jasper, and I don't even know if he took the opportunity to even wave at people as the train passed through Jasper. But let's go back to our video here, and we can see the other people present for the funeral. You had Henry Wallace. Henry Wallace was not vice president in 1940 at this time in September. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was seeking his 3rd term of office in 1940, and his previous vice president for the first 2 terms was not going to run with him, and in place of him, he had Henry Wallace, who had a secretary position. I can't remember exactly which secretary position that it was, but he will be the vice president because Roosevelt will win that election. Henry Morgenthau, who was Secretary of Treasury, Attorney General Jackson, Frances Perkins, and I always told my classes that Frances Perkins was the first female cabinet member. She was Secretary of the Interior. Supreme Court Justice Hugo Black. Look at this, Harry Truman. We had Harry S. Truman. That is not a mistake there with a period not being behind S. That is the way his middle name is. It's just Harry S. Truman. He was a senator at that time. Of course, in the presidential election in 1944, he would be FDR's vice presidential running mate. The brother of William Brockman Bankhead was John Hollis Bankhead, the second long line of Bankheads that served in Senate, served in the House of Representatives. We had another individual. I always told my classes about Fighting Bob LaFollette. I didn't put it down here. He's from Wisconsin, but Robert LaFollette, a representative from Alabama, Frank Boykin Jr. I happened to know his son later when I served for a short period of time as a page boy in the Alabama legislature, and Frank Boykin Jr. was a representative at that time, was a legislator. John Sparkman, he was a representative from Alabama. Later, he would run for the vice president on the vice presidential ticket with Strom Thurmond in 1948. And, of course, that was with the Dixiecrat Party or the States' Rights Party, and they were unsuccessful there. Okay, and let's see here now. Now, when the train arrived, and the train brought in, it was a large train, and most of these representatives were present here. It arrived in Jasper. Now, you don't remember this, I'm sure. I do remember it. But Jasper, Alabama actually had train service. And we had the old Frisco Rail Depot, and the rail depot was located right along in this area. That building there is not the old Frisco rail depot. But the old one was right here. I can remember my aunt used to visit Jasper and ride the train into Jasper, and we would go down and pick her up. So to get you oriented with this is where the Humane Society is today. The Humane Society is across the road here. Some of you might remember the old Jitney Jungle. I don't know what this building is today, which is right up in this area here. But anyway, and that's where the train arrived. Here's showing you some of the train cars. The presidential car was present on one of those train cars. And what these are just the flowers. And they estimated that it was just an uncountable number of flowers that were present, to take into the sanctuary of the First Methodist Church. And that's just a portion of the flowers that was there. Sharing another photograph with you of that time. All right, this is at the Frisco Railroad Station. Now, the road that you're seeing here is Birmingham Avenue. Now, where the Humane Society would be over in this area there. I don't know what this building is. It's right across the street where the old Jitney Jungle used to be. There's housing projects there today, low-rent housing projects. They're present all along through there on both sides of the road. You can see here the coffin, the casket is being taken here and will be loaded into the hearse that is there. All right, now the funeral will take place in the Methodist Church. This is located on 3rd Avenue and 18th Street in Jasper. A very beautiful church made of marble. If you're looking at it from on this side right here, this is the east side of the church, and that is where the pallbearers and where the hearse will be on this side. Now, the president will not be on that side. The president will be on this side, and this is the side which, of course, is the north side, which he will enter the church on. Showing you a map, and this is a map of 1951 Jasper, Alabama. I'm working backwards here, so bear with me and try to be a little bit patient with me on this. Now, this is where the Frisco train station was. This is Birmingham Avenue here, and I've marked the president's route. I've marked it in red, and then I've marked the hearse travel in blue. So for the president left in his car, his presidential car, and left out of the Frisco train station here, and we'll go down Birmingham Avenue all the way to 19th Street. This is 19th Street here. You can drive it today if you wish to do so. And then made a left on 19th Street and passed through downtown Jasper. 40,000 people were present there, all wanting to get a glimpse of the president. And the courthouse square is right here. Right here's the courthouse. And passed by the courthouse square. Then went down to 5th Avenue, made a right at 5th Avenue, and went up to 18th Street and made another right, and then went to the church on this side, right across from the Masonic Temple. Masonic Temple is right here. All right, and would enter the church there. I'll show you how he did so in just a bit. Now, for the hearse traveled down Birmingham Avenue and turned on 20th Street and came down like this and went down to 4th Avenue, made a right, then made another right and went down 18th Street no, excuse me, 19th Street, and then made a left on 19th Street. This is Courthouse Square here, and then went up to the Methodist Church in that fashion. All right, so and a lot of argument on that, quite frankly. All right, now the pallbearers for the funeral, ordinarily we have 6. In this case here, I think it's 9. I just wanted to list these out for you. These are prominent people from Jasper. If we look here, we can see Dr. Jackson. I'm not going through all of these. And I do remember Dr. Walker. He was a great benefactor to Walker College. If you've ever been to Walker College or even Bevel State, Walker Hall, which Bevel State no longer uses Walker Hall, but under Walker College we certainly did, is named for him. W.D. Link, I knew him personally. Yeah, I was a little boy. I wasn't living when Roosevelt passed through Jasper, but I'd come along a few years later. But I knew some of these guys when I was, they were older and I was a young guy. Charles Wiggins here, a popular attorney here in Jasper, Alabama. Let's see, the ushers, G.T. Patrick, who was in charge of the ceremonies. He was the superintendent of the school systems, city school systems, when I was in school. Here's Judge Blanton, Al Blanton. He was my baseball coach in Little League and Babe Ruth League. Bert Simmons, another prominent individual. Bert Simmons, some of you may have attended T.R. Simmons school, and he was part of, he donated the land for that. We see Charles Tweedy, and Charles Tweedy, prominent attorney in Jasper. Here's John Prim here, insurance salesman. I remember all of these individuals. And here's showing you the large crowds of people that gathered here. Here is the hearse right here. And you can see the pallbearers that are present here on the east side of the church. Notice the Masonic temple in the background. Where the courthouse would be over there. Again, we have large crowds here in Jasper. That's at J.C. Penney's. That's where the law offices are. Right across the courthouse square, right across from Los Reyes. Here's the hearse. Many people thought this was the president's car. It's not the president's car. You can see the hearse here. Notice here there's no white wall tires. All right, this is Courthouse Square. Courthouse is right over here. And they had to construct a ramp for the president because the president had polio and he could walk just very little on his own. So they constructed this ramp on 18th Street across from the Masonic Temple where the president's car could be driven up. Here's another photograph of it right there. That's the president's car. Notice here you have the white sidewalls here, so the other photograph was obviously not the president's car. The president entered on the 18th Street side, shuffling along. We had Colonel Watson dressed in black in an Army uniform who was escorting the president. Notice the arms are linked right there. A Navy escort here was a Captain Callahan. Don't you think he looks like Leslie Nielsen? I think he looks just like Leslie Nielsen. Here's what the sanctuary looked like. Currently it looks like. I'll show you a photograph of what it looked like on September 17th, 1940. Roosevelt was seated in the second pew. Today, if you go to the Methodist Church in the sanctuary, it's the third row. But at that time, they did not have, one of the rows was not present. The president was on the second row on the end seat right here. There's a plaque there today. You can go by and read that if you wish to do so. And the plaque says this pew was occupied by our beloved former president, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, at the funeral of Speaker of the House of Representatives, William Brockman Bankhead. Photograph here showing you what the sanctuary looked like. They had visitation from 12:30 to 2 o'clock on that day. And as many people as could be seated actually went into the funeral. Speaker of the House, William Brockman Bankhead, buried at Oak Hill Cemetery. You can go to there today and see where his burial site is, along with all the other Bankheads, many of them there. Be sure and take the time to go by the Bankhead Heritage House. This was the home of William Brockman Bankhead. Tallulah Bankhead stayed there some. Likewise. But this is open to the public. It's generally open at 10 o'clock on Monday through Friday anyway. Historical sign is right outside the summer home there at William Brockman Bankhead. And also downtown Jasper next to the Methodist Church, you'll see a historical sign there. that commemorates Roosevelt's visit to the funeral there. All right, one of Jasper's finest days here, September 17th in 1940, the President of the United States actually came to Jasper, Alabama. Please take the time to go to the church in downtown Jasper. It's generally open and open to the public, especially during the day, and go in and just reminisce a little bit. Beautiful, beautiful church. Thank you very much for your attention.